poison. Your worldview is poison. Your outlook is poison. Denied all you want, but the truth is it's all poison. See, as long as we keep believing in demons, devils, and goblins, we'll never see a reason to tackle problems and solve them. Cause we gon' keep on thinking it's part of divine prophecy, and we don't have to solve it, cause one day Jesus will stop and see. Many of y'all is partially
all right. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. We are live. Today is Sunday, March 6, 2011, and as you notice, not only did we not have the standard super graphic-y intro, if you're watching the video, but we had completely different music to start off with. That's from Landon Tombstone Taylor. There's a link to it up on my Facebook page, or you can go to YouTube and just search for Poison Atheist, and it's like the first thing that pops up. And the beginning samples the show, the conversation that I had with Mark from Stone Church, so I'm sure they'll be thrilled, and you know, because we're here to make people famous. Mostly, I'm here to make Landon famous because I loved it, and hope everybody else likes it too. How's everybody doing? Welcome. I'm Matt Dillahunty, hosting the Atheist Experience. Tracy Harris joining me this week. Howdy. And our wonderful studio audience who got inside information. Yay, so they even clap.
One of them does.
Well, one. There's more than one, but I can't show you. Tracy, how are you?
Good.
Awesome. You have stuff to actually talk about.
I have a little bit, yeah.
Good.
Just kind of like to rip through it. I know we don't have a lot of time.
Look, the phone lines are already lit up.
I know, isn't that
but
crazy?
It's your go. So
okay, well, I'll just do it real quickly then. We'll skip the analogies and things, and I'll just give the explanation. Someone had written in and asked why a supernatural hypothesis would be any less valid than a natural hypothesis when we're talking about something for which we don't know an explanation.
Isn't that just like saying, why is a magical hypothesis
Yeah.
any less valid than a non-magical one?
Correct, yeah, that's what they're asking. And basically they're saying, wouldn't the fact that you don't know what caused something mean that anything goes, and that anything is as valid as anything else? And yeah, we did address that, I think, with the transcendent dice model at one point, but I'll go ahead and just give the explanation that I gave, because when I gave this explanation, the person actually wrote back and said, thank you, it helped a lot. Mm-hmm. So I was a little surprised. Generally, when people are thinking that a supernatural explanation would be as good as a natural one, you will get an argument even when you explain it. So to hear somebody actually come back and say, that explained it and I understand it now and thank you very much, I was just like, okay, maybe this was a good explanation. So
there
why?
are conversations that end well. I had a little back and forth on Facebook, and at one point I just ended up having to give up, and later on the person wrote back and said, you know what, on reflection, you were right, and it was kind of, and I was like, great, that's awesome.
I'm going to take a guess that maybe that was on my strand. Was that on my thread?
It may have been.
Yeah, and a wink to that person, because you renew my faith in a person's ability to think and reason and to say, wow, you know, I was really vehemently arguing that and I really believed it and I really thought it, and then at the end of the day when I pondered what people were saying to me, I realized, wow, this was not correct.
Yeah, so Terry restored my confidence in reason amongst them.
And that should be a positive shout out. Please don't take that as like a negative shout out. So why supernatural hypothesis would be considered less valid than a natural hypothesis in claims of causation. And the short answer is that things that do not exist cannot be the cause of other things. This is not a claim or a statement that supernature does not exist. It's a statement that asserting, it's not a statement that supernature does not exist. It is a statement asserting that in order for anything, including supernature, to be put forward as a valid cause, that thing must at the very least be existent.
Right.
I mean, it's something that we all agree on. If a thing doesn't exist, it can't be a cause of other things. If it does exist, it can be a cause of other things. It's just merely a baseline.
You could look at it as three categories. There's a pool of things that are known to exist.
Right.
And a pool of things that are known not to exist.
Right.
And some things that might possibly exist. And
but
the
you
ones
can't call them existent yet.
Yes, and the ones that are in this category are by default more reasonable explanations.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the things that are in the category of things that might exist are at this point no different as far as our capacity to gauge them than the things in the non-existent category. I mean, until we can demonstrate their existence, you just can't call them existent. You can just simply say, I think that one day we will demonstrate that this thing exists, but today is not that day, and so for now, we cannot make the assertion in any valid way that the thing exists. Let's see. Nature is known to exist. And if we wish to posit supernatural explanations, we then compound a problem by putting forward an explanation that then requires a demonstration. So, in other words, to make our supernatural explanation even begin to be valid, we need to find a way to demonstrate that there actually is such a thing as supernature. And we also have to show that it can do what we're claiming it can do. So until we examine supernature, we can't make any valid assertions about what supernature is or what it does in the way that we can about nature. So with nature, we can demonstrate that it does certain things. We can postulate that it does certain things based on what we know about it and what we observe about it. But with supernature, you can't even know what it's doing. You can't make a valid claim of what it does. You can't postulate what it might do because you don't know what it is. You don't have information about it. So there's no way to speculate even. Well, you're speculating, but you're speculating based on nothing, as opposed to when you speculate about what nature might be able to do, you're speculating based on at least a base set of information that you've got. Yeah. So you know something about it, and you can then make leaps of where it might be able to go based on what you know about it. Yeah. Where but supernature is just a big black hole. There's no valid means of asserting anything.
And when we've talked about this before, one of the kind of examples I use is that we tend to explain things in terms of other things that we understand, sure, or that are at least reasonably understood. And so if you've got something that is in the category of unknown or not demonstrable or untestable, then you're essentially trying to solve a mystery by appealing to, sure, another mystery.
Yeah, and this is that statement. It's just sort of expounding on that. Mm-hmm. But what I summarized it as is we have an unexplained event X, and we have nature that can be examined to see if it can do what's required to achieve X. Then we have supernature, which we can't examine, we can't demonstrate, and about which we can make no informed claims. So it's literally an unknown variable that we can just call it Y, simply an undefined variable. In this case, if we put supernature forward as the cause, what we're saying is that an effect we can't explain was produced by a cause we know nothing about, and for all we know doesn't even exist. So mysterious event X is caused by unknown, possibly non-existent cause Y. And that's really not saying much.
Yeah.
So saying Y caused X, where X is unexplained and Y is undefined, is not an explanation. And I want to note that piling on more claims about Y is not defining Y. It really isn't. Because when somebody says, well, Y is my God and it's the God of the Bible, and Y, you're just making more claims about Y that are then claims about attributes or causation of the thing that we are unable to examine. So you're just piling on the claims that have the same problem of it requires a demonstration of the existence of the thing in order to verify that what you've just said about it is correct.
Yeah, it's kind of you're complicating the issue, because on the one hand, when you start making claims about the attributes of God or the nature of God, you are attempting to define this in a way that makes it appear to be more explanatory. Like you were saying, you'd have to actually demonstrate those attributes and things.
Right.
So on the one hand, you're making it more and more difficult to make your case while you're attempting to make it easier. And on the other hand, by going through and adding traits to the definition, you are at least making an attempt toward defining something in a way that we may be able to, or we're more able to investigate it. For example, if you talk about a God that specifically answers prayer versus just some abstract God, well, okay, the answering prayer thing is something that's potentially testable,
sure,
and continues to
fail.
Right,
but when somebody puts forward, like, for example, a definition, and they say, well, my God is eternal.
Yes.
That's a useless help. That doesn't define anything for me, because that's just another claim. And for me to accept that your God is eternal, I need to see your God, and I need to look at that and say, does this thing pan out as eternal? I mean, I don't even know what an eternal God would be like, but I assume, since you're throwing out that attribute, that you have some concept of what it means. And so if it has some meaning for you, then we can look at that and try to figure it out. But I don't know how you would demonstrate your God as eternal.
Not only that, but a lot of those characteristics they add, like eternal, are utterly irrelevant to the point they're trying to make. They might as well say, my God is pink with polka dots.
Right, exactly.
Because whether or not it's pink with polka dots or eternal doesn't really have any effect so far as we can, unless you want to claim that only pink polka dotted gods that are eternal can answer prayers, in which case, okay, let's put that to the test, and first you've got to find a pink polka dotted God.